I never saw an ocean until I was 21. Although I did see Lake Erie, which is sort of a freshwater sea, but it's not at all the same. My early ocean memories are all from games. Camping the Alizwasar in the Ocean of Tears, that one Zora temple level in Majora's Mask, hijacking boats in Ultima Online, Sid Meier's Pirates? I guess I didn't play many ocean games either. I completely missed Subnautica when it released in 2018, partially because I thought it was somehow related to Abzu, which I really disliked, and partially because the idea of a game that is all water level sounds evil to a late 90s gamer. Well, better 8 years late than never. Subnautica. Taking place in the far future, we awake as our spaceship crash lands on a strange water world. Guided initially by emergency radio broadcasts and our own curiosity, we'll uncover a shocking secret about the planet we've landed on. And with a little bit of gumption, we'll build a rocket that gets us back into the hyper-capitalist paradise we all crave. But that's not really what I want to talk about, no. I just want to discuss a few things that I felt Subnautica does exceptionally well. I just want to say that I have a general dislike of all crafting-focused games. It's kind of absurd that we're still using basically the same menu-based crafting systems in games today that we were using 30 years ago. Actually, anyone who's done a little arts and crafts project knows creating any given item is a wildly diverse process that can be accomplished in 100 different ways. And yet in games, it's always just selecting a name from a menu. I've had a good many hours of gathering a shopping list of items and then standing around pressing X 100 times. At a certain point, if the game isn't very calculated in the volume of items it has you make, it just becomes fantastically uninteresting. Subnautica does not run into this, as there are actually very few repeat consumables. And you'll naturally accumulate a good amount of resources while exploring the environments. Although once you get into base building, yeah, you'll be doing some farming, and by the end you might get a little bit tired of topping off your food and drink meters. But that's a late game problem. The early game is fantastic. It takes a minute to acclimate, but dipping your feet in is the best part. There's an entry in the PDA that gives us a heads up on which items are most essential to survive, but otherwise it's extremely open-ended. It presents us with a mysterious, interesting environment, and then gets out of its own way. Other than the typical survival crafting, we're interacting with the world primarily through the scanner, which unlocks little entries on all the plants and animals and mysterious stuff we find. While it's not quite CRPG level, this is a reading-heavy game. It does expect you to scan and read the entries for almost everything you see. A lot of animals have behaviors you can exploit for your own gain, and they aren't exactly easy to suss out without using the scanner. This game really succeeds in cultivating the feeling that anything could be in the water with you. You'll feel it almost immediately. The first time I ventured just a little bit outside the starting area, over a kelp forest so deep I couldn't see the bottom, the light spearing down ahead of me, nothing visible in any direction. And then I hear a long, deep moan, and a colossal shadow in the distance. There's a lot of moments like this, when you catch a glimpse of something that just looks mean, and have a few moments to figure out whether to cut and run, or try to scan it. This mostly seems to be a success of the audio design, and sort of a built-in feature of being ocean-based. A lot of the time, there's no wall to put your back to, no way to really defend yourself or escape. I see why people are afraid of the ocean. Not me, though. I'm tough. And if you're tough like me, you'll probably be interested in creating one of every item as fast as possible, just in case. While you're doing that, the game opens up and prods you to explore further and further. You'll receive distress calls that draw you to certain locations where you'll likely scan new blueprints that will force you to explore further afield for new resources, and then you'll start grasping at other threads of the main plot, and presto, the game blooms outwards and downwards, coaxing you from the relative safety of the starting zone. You'll find new biomes, briefly be shocked by how alien they are, and then develop a sort of mastery over them as you learn the behavior of their inhabitants. The early game is strictly a knowledge-gathering mission. Around mid-game, you'll make the stasis rifle, which temporarily freezes any creature, and that's when it switches from requiring cautious exploration to being a little more gamey, shooting first and swimming right up to the incredibly dangerous-looking creatures. It doesn't necessarily hurt the game, but I noticed a complete change of my mindset once I realized I had a weapon to fight back with. Still, the other big success of Subnautica is instilling a love of exploration for the sake of exploration. And I put this down to just how interesting all the biomes are. You really never know what's coming next, and that drives the urge to explore as its own reward. There's no checklist demanding you climb a tower and survey the area to unlock the map. Heck, the game doesn't even have a map. You'll be exploring manually, either taking notes on directions and distances, or manufacturing your own system of waypoint markers to keep track of interesting locations. I really dig the freeform exploration, and it feels like they've hit a near-perfect balance of leaving little plot threads for you to stumble upon and unravel without the overarching story becoming cumbersome to your preferred experience. I found it pretty convenient to only pursue the plot when I chose to, and I really appreciate that it gave me time to fart around and build up my stupid little sea house. The game also uses its survival elements to both throttle and encourage exploration in a way that works particularly well. In the beginning, we don't have an air tank, so our glimpses of the sea are very brief, only lasting for a lungful of breath. Once we build our air tank, hey, we can explore a little more and find a way to upgrade it, allowing us to explore a little deeper, but still we're limited by that air meter, until we start building vehicles which are both faster and act as mobile air sources. But then the vehicles themselves are only rated for certain crush depths, until you upgrade them, and so on. It's a really neat system that constantly propels you forwards, looking for the materials to upgrade your exploration capability, then making use of those upgrades. I also particularly like the Cyclops submarine. Another of my big gripes with survival crafting games is how building a home base locks you into a location and forces a ton of needless back and forth traversal between gather spots in your base. Well, in Subnautica, you can build almost everything you need into a submarine and take it with you. Problem solved. Overall, I've got strong praise for Subnautica. It's a really unique entry in the survival crafting canon, with a wildly original setting, great pacing that largely trusts the player to be self-directed, impressive sound and visual design, and a certain leanness that keeps it away from the worst of the genre's devolutions. On the trusty pain scale, I give Subnautica a painless. Not to be too dramatic, but I think Subnautica may be my new platonic ideal survival crafter. Oh, and the creature design is really solid throughout. I forgot to mention that. My favorite is the Reginald. What a gentlemanly critter. Well, that's all for my 49th review. I'm Jotun Warrior. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, see ya!